I'll do whatever will be in my power to make sure that those delineation and that it becomes very clear. In terms of even fertilizer, that's why I said eventually, gradually, the way to go is to make sure that you decentralize. The procurement should not be done centrally. It should be done with agro dealers. Those are business people who can be able to do procurement. They do it as part of their business. The government can come in and subsidize and give the vouchers. So as I indicated, and I would like to repeat again, I am a firm believer in that issue about sustainable development through counties. Livestock. Yes, livestock is a very critical area. It is one of the critical areas because has a great potential in terms of being able to the livelihood, especially in ASAL areas. And Honorable Member Isuda is to say that I'm lucky that when I'm coming in, if I come in, there is a livestock bill which has been published, and the livestock policy which has been published. So the livestock bill is trying to cure the lacuna which was there, in that we do not have agencies which are promoting livestock matters in the country. So it will create, for instance, try to regulate what is happening in breeding, animal feeds, which members know that there are a lot of issues with animal feeds, quality and others. Create a livestock marketing board, which will be promoting livestock. A research organization dedicated to livestock, although it is between CARO. And institutes. I was surprised to learn that some of the institutes in livestock, like Haiti, which we know, don't have legal status. They are just there created by... So the livestock bill is trying to do that. And there are issues which are coming through, I know, this information which you will be dealing with, so that when it comes for the necessary hearings and the public hearing, those issues are dealt with. So I think I will give it a lot of priority, the livestock bill, and so that by the time, maybe by next year, we will have some of these institutions in place. Thank you.
Mary now.
Thank you, Chairman. My question to the nominee. The country has suffered recurrent drought, flooding, occasioned by climate change. In the process, we've lost a lot of livestock through starvation, millions of livestock. We've also lost crops through flooding. Some are washed away. Even the crops that manage to survive do not perform well because of too much water. My question is, what mitigation measures can you put in place to reduce the loss of livestock during future droughts? What compensation measures or strategies would you be able to put in place? Because we know that we have livestock insurance, at least areas, livestock farmers can be compensated. What about crops, farmers that lose crops? What are your thoughts? Secondly, in the agricultural sector, we have so many youths who are trained, degrees in agriculture, even PhD in agriculture, extension officer, trained but jobless, so many of them. I don't know if you're aware of that. And we need to be deliberate in employment creation. If you are successful and you become the Minister of Agriculture, what deliberate measures are you going to put in place to ensure that you deliberately placing resources in programs that will create opportunities for these young people? Thank you.
Daud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. To the nominee, he has mentioned he has been in the coffee sector in the task force. What I would want to put to him is the coffee sector is in turmoil. prices and theft at the coffee factories are rampant. We need to probably develop new varieties and value addition for coffee. What would be your position on that? Secondly, the Kenya Kwanza government, I believe, they talked about guaranteed minimum returns. And I've seen you have worked with the Kilimo Biashara as well. What would be your take on guaranteed minimum returns for all our products? Lastly, there is a bill I'm co-sponsoring, the livestock theft bill, which is in Parliament. Apparently, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock has got what is coming up, but instead of them bringing it to Parliament, they say that has to stop before we bring ours. So if you do get confirmed, would you be willing even to be assisted by members of Parliament bringing bills and not stopping bills because the ministry is going to bring? When it is going to bring, we do not know. So those are the few things I would want you to answer.
Go ahead, Dr. Karanja.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Mary, the issue about livestock and climate change. Climate change is a definite threat to agriculture and many other sectors, including energy and others. And it has to be dealt with. Measures have to be taken. And in particular, when you go to livestock, especially where it is practiced in the arid and semi-arid areas, that is where climate change is becoming a big issue due to the persistent droughts. And we have to invest in mitigation and adaptation measures in those areas. For instance, if you go to the northeast counties, Isiolo, Wajir, and others, you realize that over time, the pastoralists have started to realize that pasture conservation is one of the areas which they can invest in. They used to graze and then go. But through interventions, through various programs, you can now see hay being sold in those areas. So some of these mitigation measures are going to be there, especially to change their lifestyle, so that they adopt measures like pasture conservation. And if approved, I am going to promote programs which you do the adaptation especially for livestock sector. For crops, it's also the same. We need measures varieties which are resistant or drought tolerant, varieties which are higher temperature, can withstand higher temperatures. So that, as the docket of research is within my mandate, if approved, I will also emphasize on that. We have also to take, for instance, the Kenya Kwanza agenda of planting trees. That is one area where we need to emphasize, because trees, agroforestry and others, is one of the measures which we can be able to mitigate the effects of the climate change. Then in agriculture, I'll also be working closely, if I'm approved, with my counterparts in irrigation. Our agriculture is rain-fed. It is prone to the vagaries of the weather. So we need to invest where we can, with resources allowing. We need to invest in irrigation so that we expand the area of the irrigation. Small-scale irrigation programs, which can be able to support farmers so that they are not caught by this the issue about climate change. Then I think insurance. At the final end of the day, because this is a risk, we need to emphasize both crop and livestock insurance so that farmers are able to be compensated whenever there is an occurrence of that calamity which occurs. Issue about the youth. I indicated earlier that, yes, I'm quite aware of this particular challenge of jobless youth in the country, in the rural areas and everywhere else. And if I'm approved, my undertaking is that, whatever we are doing in all the value chains, the issue about the youth, women, PWDs, people living with disabilities, will be taken care of. Not just taken care of, but we will go out of our way to make sure that and monitor clearly that we are taking care of the youth, the women, and people with disability. Honorable Dawood, the coffee industry, as you have rightly indicated, I started my career there as an economist. I have also served in the task force and other. Yes, I know there are issues, very major issues in the coffee industry, including legislative one, the bill, the policy, which are still pending. This will be low-hanging fruits. I will be able to handle them if I'm approved, so that we move forward. New varieties and thefts. I work with collaboration with, especially for theft, I work with the collaboration with the interior, so that we are able to see how best we can handle the coffee thefts. Because the coffee thefts are usually promoted and gotten mainly from maybe insider jobs or people who have licenses who can be able to dispose of the coffee. Because you cannot buy coffee. Where do you take it? It has to be that you have a license, you can be able to dispose. So it is something which, with working together with the Ministry of Interior, we will be able to handle. So I will approach it from the policy point of view, having the policy, and I'm also aware that there is a coffee bill, which is before Parliament or Senate. I'm here to take the position very well. So I'll go ahead and do whatever it takes to make sure that that is done. Minimum guaranteed returns for farmers. This was a campaign and Kenya Kwanza in the plan. It needs to be looked into because it involves a lot of, from an economic point of view, it involves a lot of resources. In terms of if you want to guarantee the coffee, tea, you want to guarantee maize, you want. So this one, I would say that if I am approved, I will set up the necessary structures to make sure that I get good professional advice on this particular issue and the best way to go forward. But I know it is very important to our farmers. It was in the plan, the Kenya Kwanza plan, so we have to move forward, but cautiously so that we are not, given our financial situation, that we don't overcommit. The livestock and the bills, I would like to handle it from where you, Honorable Dawood, you said, if I'm approved as a cabinet secretary, working with the National Assembly and Senate and every members of the honorable members, whenever a bill, you don't have to oppose a bill because it is coming from another quarter. If it is something which is good, it is bringing something of value on the table, the best approach will be you look and you consult and you do the consultation so that you agree on a common position. You improve on what you have. If it is a bill brought by a private member's motion, you see what is bringing on the table. If the ministry has something else to add, you add. So it is a collaborative effort. I would approach it that way.
Ferdinand.
Thank you very much. Dr. Karanja, you have promised, and please go by that promise, that if you are actually approved by this House, then of course you're going to put some workable and various interventions in the system to be able to move forward as a sector, agricultural sector. One, I want to ask you, what are you going to do? We have failed. There are some projects you actually failed. Kalana Gulalu is one of them that this House or that of the Parliament actually put in a lot of efforts, but it is failed. I want you to tell me what you are going to do. Because you are saying the moment we approve you, you're going to get some of the things that have failed. Two, out here, and I think it's a common knowledge, there's a lot of land fragmentation, the cutting land, to reducing the workable land. Agricultural land is actually being subdivided. I'm afraid 20 years to come, maybe you and I won't be there. 20 years to come, there'll be no land for cultivation in this country. And I think I had a chance to go to some of the places like Denmark, where land is actually put aside. So what are you going to do about that to be able to at least stop this fragmentation of the land, subdividing? Of course, if I have like 4 children, each one of them must have a piece of land. Lastly and not least, the most important thing is that agriculture. You have promised, and I hope you will live up to your promise. There's irrigation. Irrigation in this country, I don't know who did this, is misplaced. Is in blue economy. What do you irrigate in blue economy? Blue economy is water. Are you going to have an effort to bring it to agriculture? Because irrigation is actually supposed to be irrigating the products, crops, but not the blue economy. Are you going to, again, given by your background, bring it back to agriculture? I think the others, insurance, you have talked about insurance. I don't want to repeat it, but I think the best you will do is that there's a lot of crop failures.
Honorable Ferdinand, irrigation is not in blue economy.
Blue economy.
It's in water.
Water, but water is a blue economy.
No, they're different.
But we want to bring it.
There is a Minister of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime. Yes.
No, I
have
think
water, irrigation, and sanitation.
Let's get Dr. Ari to see your view, because irrigation was in agriculture. It was moved from agriculture. So that's what I'm saying.
To grab it back.
Yeah, I want it back. It has to come back, because what do you irrigate in water? No, of course he can, through him, he can bring a motion, whatever it is, if he is approved, to bring it to agriculture, because what it is misplaced. Thank you.
Murugara?
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Dr. Karanja, there is a lot of theory in agriculture, especially to encourage youngsters to study agriculture and economics, with such catchphrases like agriculture is the backbone of the economy of the country. That is, in agriculture and in economics, it's the biggest employer and should be sustained, etc., etc. When you look at the level of unemployment in the country today, why would it be at such high level if it were the greatest employer? It means the policies regarding agriculture vis-a-vis the young people we are educating do not match. Number two, it means the youngsters do not take agriculture to be any form of gainful employment. It's dirty, it doesn't have good income, and all that. What policies would you put in place to ensure that we have a mindset change to the youngsters to know that agriculture can actually be that employer which is income generating? And if we were to do this, then the next question is, we as a country presided over the killing of some of our best cash crops in the country away from coffee and tea, including cotton. Cotton was doing very well in arid and semi-arid areas. But we elected to have Mutumba coming in, as a result of which cotton almost got dissipated. Sunflower, another cash crop, which was doing very well in those areas. We watched as we brought in edible oil from other countries, and the crop went down. What policies would you put in place to ensure that cotton, sunflower are revived as our cash crops, which would actually reverse the trend of importation of either very expensive clothes from Turkey China and everywhere else, or the second-hand clothes, which are flocking in from all over the world, and also edible oils that are coming from the Asian countries, while actually we can sustain that ourselves. And not lastly, we have the other food cash crops, which we grow. The crops are food, but basically, if you check their mode of production, they are cash crops. And I'll give you examples. One of them is gadam sorghum, which is supposed to be consumed by the brewers. It's also a food crop. Another one is the mang beans, the dengu in eastern Kenya. It's supposed to be a food crop, but it is produced as a cash crop by the farmers. The cartels we were talking about are now able to go around it, import those crops from the neighboring countries, as a result of which the prices become extremely miserable and to some extent throw away. What policies would you put in place to ensure that those crops are sustained in the country and their prices are improved so that farmers are encouraged to continually grow these crops for economic purposes? Finally, livestock. Livestock is supposed to be one of the most lucrative agricultural endeavors or enterprises we undertake, including export. But it surprises us that even the quotas we are given, leave alone Europe, which refuses to accept our beef on the basis that, as the Deputy Speaker put it, we use drugs to treat these animals, which drugs are banned in their countries. So when they do their tests, they say this meat does not qualify for our consumption. But the Asian countries are more than willing to accept our beef products. How come, as a country, we are not able to meet our quotas when actually we are capable of even overdoing it because of the areas that are arid and semi-arid? What policies would you put in place to ensure that livestock is also sustained along those lines?
Yes, Dr. Karanja, that's quite a mouthful.
Thank you, Mr.
Can you
Speaker.
respond to all those very important issues from
Yes.
Ferdinand to Morgara?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. From Ferdinand, thank you, Ferdinand, for your Honorable Ferdinand, for your question on the field projects. The Garana Kuraru, I know this has been in the works, has been there for some time. Coming from where I come from, as I indicated, is that if I am approved, I have worked in programs and projects. And one of the areas where you do is to do an evaluation, clear evaluation with economic analysis. If it is not working, it is not working. If it is working, then you can see what are the lessons learned and you go ahead. So if I am approved, one of the areas which I would do, without throwing away the baby with the bathwater, is to do a candid evaluation of that program, of that project. If it is not working, then we get advisory, we move away, and we see how the best to get out or to continue. So and that is just an example of Guraru Kuraru. We will do for others, which we feel that they are not delivering, they are not getting value for money. Subdivision of land. I know this is beyond agriculture alone, because yes, agriculture is the biggest user of land in the country. And if I am approved, what I will do is I will engage the sector of land, because we are supposed to have a land use policy, clear land use policy, which delineates areas where you can do agriculture, areas where you can do housing, areas where you can do other things, so that we are able to delineate those areas. So this is a collaborative effort with the sector of land, because I'm sure and honorable members are aware, we are losing a sizable number, a sizable proportion of agricultural land to real estate in Kiambu and other areas. And this are causing a lot of concern. Even in other counties, we are doing the same. So it is an area where I will engage the sector of lands to come up with clearly with. I know there is a RAD use policy, but we need to revisit it and see how we can implement it. Irrigation, as it has been indicated, this is in the water sector. And this, I'm sure, is an issue which our appointing authority will, he ceased to that. And I don't want to comment more than that. Honorable Murunga, about, thank you for your question.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Yes, Ferdinand.
Daktari, you actually are very knowledgeable from what you have said. Don't tell us, don't throw that this the question of irrigation is it's something that you go to tell this committee what you're going to do. Don't tell us that somebody else holds they're talking of the same thing. We have said, and I've said it very clearly, irrigation is supposed to irrigate crops. And somebody misplaced it in water. It's as simple as that. So what are you going to do about it?
Thank you, Honorable Ferdinand. Yes, I agree. Because irrigation, when you do it, especially the small one, not the big dams, which you have hydros in them, the irrigation we do for small scale is agriculture, actually, most of it. And logically, it is supposed to be in agriculture so that you manage, because even the technical management of the irrigation scheme, yeah, it is agriculture. The water part is it's just making sure that the water is there. So that is why I'm saying, because coming in as a CS, I would love to have irrigation as one of the dockets, but definitely I need to be guided.
It is not your duty to assign departments.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
No, but also he uses
But-
the water.
yes.
He doesn't
Okay.
develop the water.
If I may continue, Honorable
Go on.
Honorable Murunga has, thank you for your questions. The issue about the youth and agriculture. Yes, it is quite something which, because you realize that agriculture has been left to the old people. One of the studies which was done by one of the institutes indicated that, for instance, the average age of a coffee farmer is 62 years. So very aged people. And the issue is about the youth might not want to go into production per se. They might not want to go to production, but what they are interested in is issues to do with the value chain, along the value chain. For instance, in agro-processing, in making sure that, for instance, if there is milk, they add value, they can make yogurt, they can do the ghee. So, as indicated earlier, some of the key value chains which has been highlighted and has been prioritized, we will try as much as possible to integrate the issue about the youth. There is also a program, I'm informed, if I come in, and I'll try to scale it up, trying to inculcate, to teach youth about agriculture, right from the secondary schools and primary schools, so that they have the right mindset when they are coming up. Policies, edible oils and imports. As I indicated earlier, we are having a big issue about food imports. We are becoming a country of food imports. Edible oils. I was checking the statistics, and when you look at petroleum and other, edible oils is featuring very highly in terms of imports. So we need, and it's one of the priorities in the BETA, which has been prioritized, especially sunflower. So we will accelerate that if I am approved, we will accelerate that program to make sure that the farmers have the necessary planting materials for sunflower. They have the necessary planting materials for other edible oils, canola and others. And the challenge of also making sure that not only they have the planting materials, but also they have the technology to get the oil out of the sunflower. Because it's one thing to plant the sunflower, it's another thing to get the oil out of the sunflower. Cash crop, gadam, sorghum, dengu. Sustainability in the country. Yes, these are particularly good cash crops. Some of them are like dengu, gadam, sorghum. They are a bit drought tolerant, and they are grown in areas where, like Lower Eastern, other form of Lower Eastern, Upper Eastern, and other Kitui and other Machakos and others. They are good, and they are actually very helpful crop, because in this era of climate change, they are the ones which are going to be the ones which are going to help the farmers to adapt to some of this. And if necessary, if I'm approved, if there is any exports or any cartels which are trying to curtail this, we will do the necessary legal, maybe the rules and the registration, the raw rules, to make sure that if there is anything to be curtailed, to control that market, so that they remain in the country, they are available for the country. Like I know gadam sorghum is used for brewing, so they should be able to get access to that and dengu, so that it's not exported. So I'll rely on, as the CS, the mandate I'm given, if I'm approved, by the various registrations like the crop lags, to make sure that this happens. Yes, livestock is a major one. And we are surprising, honorable members, is that despite the potential, I am believed that we are not able to even meet the demand for non-stringent market in Middle East and other areas, even for sheep and goats. For cattle, they are saying our cattle are, sometimes the numbers are too small, the weight of the animals are too small. I'm given an example where a market was found in Indonesia. They wanted a various number of cattle, but when the technical team went to the field, they could hardly get 10% or 20% of that. Reason? They wanted a cattle of a certain weight, which we did not have. Our weight was maybe half what was required in the market. The same with sheep and goats. And I'm told that is a very lucrative market, especially for Middle East. So one of the areas we are, if I'm approved, is to look at our breeds. The Borana, the Sahaiwas, the bigger ones, so that we are able to distribute this to the farmers, so that they are able to have cattle and breeds which can go to that market. There is also the issue about feedlots, making sure that we have community feedlots where they can fatten those animals, they can make them go to the weight which is required. So such kind of interventions. And I'm happy to note that livestock and lead meat is one of the priority value chains according to the BETA. So we'll be able to handle that. Thank you.
Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to pose the following question to the nominee. I know he has taken time to explain something on edible oils, which is actually part of my question, and you allow me, it's not repetitive, but from another angle, Honorable Speaker. I would like to say that we spent around 160 billion on edible oils imports. The agricultural budget is around 84.9 billion, thereabout. And a lot of money is actually used there. AFA, the Agricultural Food Authority, has a department on edible oils. But the work that goes in there is probably very limited. Probably they are managing more the imports than actually growing the edible crops in this country. And that's why we get into this. And what do they get? They make around 2 billion shillings a year for the tax that is imposed on edible oil. And therefore, we are not solving the problem on edible oils. In the past, the nominee, crops such as coconut, cashew nuts, groundnuts, crops which are very passionate about because the region I come from actually grows these issues. But they have been neglected completely. such that coconut and cashew nuts are crops that are continue to decline. We have old boughs, we have all the old tall coconut trees, and the productivity is shrinking every day. And yet we continue to import. We have the solution. The coast of Kenya and part of the eastern part can grow this macadamia and sim, sunflower, all those crops. And it made the people of the coast very rich, and the country got enough revenue. But they've been on the decline. And yet AFA, the department, the area of edible crops, is not doing much. Tell me, what kind of reforms will you bring to reduce the imports on edible oil, both legislative and policy, and also increase the production of cashew nuts and coconut so that we can cut down on the budget on oil crops? Secondly, Honorable Speaker, ADC is Agricultural Development Corporation, which is supposed to help the agriculture department. And one of the things that ADC did was to have enough land set aside. I had the question on now we are moving to settlement, and but ADC has swaths of land. But what has happened for many years, there has not been any protection on this. They've been divided, they've been given out. I know even the ADC in Malindi, they have a huge farm in Malindi, but now they're actually renting their own farm because people grabbed it. Now the land they own, they are actually paying rent on. In terms of policy and legislation, what are you going to do to protect ADC and actually spur the productivity of ADC to ensure that as a country we still anchor ourselves in agriculture, and from agriculture to manufacturing and to jobs? I thank you.
Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The nominee has come out as very brave because there's one answer he gave. I was very impressed when you said that you're willing to even advise in correcting the mess in state departments in the ministry. When you said that you feel that irrigation is misplaced and you will fight for it, that means you're a brave man. Now, I want to just point out two things. One which was raised by Honorable Naisula on the issue of Botswana, which actually exports 95% of its beef products to countries like Norway and the United Arab Emirates. And what she said is what I want to confirm, that actually they have a Botswana Meat Commission which was borrowed heavily and fashioned after Kenya Meat Commission. But years later, while theirs is thriving, Kenya's KMC is actually now in the hands of the military. So I don't know, what would you do? Because as a brave person, you must be able to make very serious and tough decisions to bring back that livestock sector to what it should be. Now, secondly, the other issue is the issue of corruption in the ministry. From NCPB and those state departments within the ministry, there's a lot of there's rampant corruption. In fact, I will tell you that at one time, just recently, Kenyans were treated to a circus of the sale of funny product in the name of fertilizer, and the parliament was actually seized of the matter and tried to handle it. Now, there's a gentleman who was my neighbor. This is a real story. And he had a piece of land, 5 acres. He was actually selling it. We were trying to get a buyer for him. Then he got appointed to the Kenya Sugar Board. Within a few months, he now started buying off all the neighbors and stopped selling his land. There is a lot of money that gets lost in our state departments, especially the agricultural one. Now, I've seen that you are worth 214 million. You are going into this sector. All those cartels are there, and they are willing to make you a billionaire within the next 3 years. Are you going to be able to resist, Bwana Nominee? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Dr. Karanje.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Will they make you a billionaire, or you are a billionaire already?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Owen Bayer, for your question about this issue about edible oils. Yes, this is a classical case of we need to do import substitution. We cannot continue spending our good money importing things we can do in this country. As I indicated earlier, the edible oils is one of the key priorities in BETTER. And if approved, I have no other alternative but to work day and night to make sure that we reduce the import bill, especially on edible oils, be it on sunflower, coconut, and cashew nuts. I know especially in the coastal zone, these are very good crops, which has been there, naturally growing there. What may be needed is to review the value chains. Their value chains, make sure that farmers are getting the necessary technologies and inputs, and also the machinery and technology to get the oil and others. Because edible oils also has another offshoot. Because, for instance, if you do sunflower, you do canola, when you squeeze the oil, what remains is what is used in animal feeds. And this is what we are importing. So it has it will help us in those areas that we get the oil, and also we support, especially our animal feeds industry. So it is quite a good industry where we need to work on. And if approved, I work day and night, I can assure you, to make sure that we reduce this import bill. It has been there. I know even in Western Kenya, there is also the issue about palm oil, which is coming up, where you can get the varieties to plant there. So it's something which is an open potential.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
just
majority.
a quick supplementary, because I hear what the nominee is saying, especially in terms of edible oils and the value chain around the production and growth and production of edible oils. And I'm just wondering, because the nominee lives in this country, and he knows what has happened to the finance bill of this year. Part of the proposals that were in the finance bill sought to do exactly what you are saying, to protect the local industry in terms of local farmers who are growing sunflower, canola, and the other inputs for edible oils. And we sought to increase excise and import duty on imported edible oils so that we protect these local farmers and grow our own local industry for the production of edible oils, to do exactly what you are saying. Now, my question is, considering that Kenyans have told us they do not want us to increase import duty or excise duty on imported products, what other measures would you take or what non-tariff interventions would you have to ensure that we protect these local farmers, grow our own local industries, and at the same time do what Kenyans are asking us, not to increase access on the imported products? Or when you speak about import substitution, my understanding of import substitution, and I'm certain being a development economist, you know import substitution will mean that we produce locally. Are there innovative ways that you would work on, or would you now try to convince Kenyans that import substitution will entail levying some taxes on imported finished products to protect our local industries and create jobs for our young people in this country? As you said, our young people are interested in jobs around the value addition in agriculture, not necessarily in production of agricultural products. But there are also many young Kenyans who are in agricultural production, and a few who have interest in value addition. But what would you tell Kenyans in terms of import substitution and tax on imports?
Thank you for the intervention, Majority Leader. I think this is sometimes, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that there comes a time a nation has to choose what you have to do. I agree, there's a sentiment that we don't have to tax more, but when you are putting barriers in order for you to create an enabling environment for our farmers to be able to do this, and also create jobs. Because if we edible oils, as I have said, you get apart from production, you get to have technology to mill these edible oils, get the oil, purify the oil. That creates a lot of jobs. It creates a lot of jobs in livestock sector and other areas. So I would go both ways. Try to, if I'm approved, try to get interventions which you help the farmers do whatever they are supposed to do. For instance, subsidizing some of the inputs so that they are able to grow more and develop the necessary technologies and adopt the necessary technologies. But I would also like to convince Kenyans that this is something which we need to do. Get those taxes, create some barriers so that our industry, especially for oil, these imports, substitution, we get it right. Because we should not be, every import is a job exported. So we need also to have, we cannot have our cake and eat it at the same time.
Speaker, before the nominee moves to my next question on ADC, yes. Don't you think that the problem why everybody wants to import edible oil is because there are cartels that make a lot of money? That, you know, if you create an enabling environment to generate edible oil locally, you're actually killing other people's businesses. Companies, you know, we used to have a lot, the Shah companies that used to do a lot of manufacturing of edible oil in the country. We have a company in Mombasa. You know, they're closing down because there are cartels in this country that are hell-bent to ensure that they continue to import edible oil because it's big money. Okay, so how are you going to, I know you've come out very strong. I would like your commitment on how you're also going to fight cartels in the edible oil sector.
Yes, Junet, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, we need to contextualize this issue of palm oil properly. I wanted to ask the nominee that as we speak now, close to 90% of Kenyans use products of palm oil, imported palm oil, as cooking oil. 90% as we speak now. Now, we can only get rid of it when we develop the other products, the sunflower and what is the other thing? Canola and other things. But now, until that is grown and developed, you can't stop, because if you levy taxes on the palm oil now because of, you're saying, quote-unquote cartels, then cooking oil will become very expensive because the sunflower and the canola are not ready now to take over. So you can only develop that other side. When it is ready is when now you switch from the palm oil to that. But if you say they are cartels, those are stories in the street.
Order. Answer the questions. This is not a debate between members.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members, Junet and Owen, for your interventions. I think there is a
question pending on ADC.
Yes.
And dismantling cartels.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this shows you the robustness of this debate, that we need to deal with the two sides. I agree 100% with what Honorable Junet is saying, that we need, in terms of timing, we need to, when we are phasing out the imports, we are coming in with strongly on the locally. So that is a matter of timing. That is a matter of timing, but we need to yeah. Thank you. So I think that's one issue which I would definitely, if I'm approved, I would look at it and see the switching the timing. If I go back to Honorable Baya, there was issue about ADC. ADC used to be a very prime parastatal government agency, where we used to get even the planting materials. We used to get, for instance, even livestock, Mutara Ranch, the rest. But it has gone down. I don't know, I will have to, when I get, if I get approval, I have to make sure that I visit them, I know what is ailing them. And the issue is, what role should they play in this dispensation which we are in? For instance, we know that we need a lot of planting materials, we need a lot of, like we are talking about livestock breeds, the Sahiwas, the Borans. can they play, what role can they play in that, aligning themselves to that priority in the sector? So that is, when I come in, if I've approved, is some of the areas which I would like to pursue quickly, because I am sure they have the capacity. They need only to go through what they need to do. Honorable Bayer, thank you for your question. And one of them is oh yeah, most of them I'm answered. Yes, the whether I can resist, whether they will be able to make me a billionaire. I come, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, I come from a point of one of my clear areas which I am saying is non-negotiable is that is issues to do with accountability and being able to stand for what is public good. And I think that, to me, will be uncompromised. I'll pray to God that I will not vacate that principle. Yeah, because I need divine intervention. I know it's not easy.
You should start with your will to resist before God helps you. Yes.
I'm wondering, because he's saying he's going to pray. Are you going to pray so that you are not a billionaire? Because the question was, are you going to resist those cartels?
You will pray to God to give him courage to resist.
Yeah, Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
Mule?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Karanja, I have no doubt in my mind you know exactly what entails in the entire agriculture and livestock sector. And as members of parliament, we are here to hear you and your suitability. And I know we are live to the entire public, and quite a number of Kenyans are watching. And I want to get a feedback after this from the mama mboga, the tea farmer, the coffee farmer, the sugar farmer, whereby you tell them on their face on the actual policies you are going to do. And I'll give you two scenarios. The first scenario is that we have a crisis at the tea sector, whereby 32 billion shillings worth of tea is unsold at the Mombasa auction, whereby it will enter and hamper the payouts to the farmers at the tea sector. As we speak, the mama mboga at the market right now, who expect to get tomatoes from the local farmers and come and resell to make little money, the entire market as we speak today, Korokosho, Kibera, Kamukunji, any market, it's flooded with tomatoes. It's flooded with sukuma wiki. It's flooded with onions. It's flooded with cabbage from within the country and